It's Lit Book Reviews here again. Back from the dead, I reckon. We told you probably wouldn't see us often, and we weren't lying. So we did come back for the big one, though. You all know what it is. It's Wind and Truth. It's Brandon Sanderson's fifth entry into the Stormlight Archive, and we are here. A lot of people have been talking about this book in the weeks that it's been since it has come out. And yeah, we're going to talk about it too. So it's Lit Book Reviews. What's up? I'm Brad Pitt. With me as always is Ben Affleck. I think I've used that one before, but it's been a while, so we're just going to roll with it. Andrew, how you doing, man? So just to set the... I finished this like a week ago maybe, and you just finished it because you're a slowpoke. So it's more fresh for you. We have not talked at all about the end. We've talked throughout you reading it, but you probably read, the last 300 pages without us talking about it?
I think the last text that I sent you, I was probably around, we haven't talked, but I've sent you a text probably within the last 150 pages or so.
Okay, yeah.
But we haven't talked probably, since 350. I think I was on maybe day 8.
Okay. All right, cool.
The last time we actually talked about it.
Now we're on day 11, so let's get into it.
When did this book come out, by the way?
It came out December 6th.
So it's December 29th, so I mean...
Yeah.
Not horrible relevance.
Yeah, and like I said, you're a slowpoke. I also just remembered that I didn't turn any lights on, so we're going to fiddle with that while we're talking. But anyway, if you've read the book or you haven't, we are going to talk spoiler and spoiler-free, but we're probably going to start with spoilers, so we'll just link a time right here. If you want to just go to the end and talk about spoiler-free stuff, we don't really care to do that too much because it makes it hard to talk about it.
So
we're not smart
book
enough.
5. I mean,
I'm not equipped to talk about this book without spoiling it naturally. So we're just going to dive right into it. We're just going to dive in. Here we are, already 3 minutes in, haven't said anything of worth. Wind and Truth, Brandon Sanderson, book 5 of the Stormlight Archive. It's more fresh for you. You just finished today. It's been like a week for me, and I've read some weird stuff since then. So start us off, man. What are your first thoughts? All spoilers ahead.
Oh, man. Dude, so all I think about is so many, when I'm trying to think, all right, were more things closed or were more things opened by the end of this book? And honestly, I think more things were open. Dude, there's so few things, when you really think about it, that are actually closed. And then my other, just big broad thought before we talk into niche stuff, so no one actually dies. Sanderson, is Sanderson truly capable of killing a character?
Well, Dalinar died. The thing you see at the end is the Blackthorn. That's like a spiritual realm, different version of him, which I kind of don't like, which, by the way, back off the mic a little bit, but I kind of don't like, not that much, not that much. We're struggling over here. I didn't like the Blackthorn thing, but that's not Dalinar. Dalinar is gone.
But what about he does try and grab something? Was that the Blackthorn, or was that was Dalinar's spirit was held up because he is an Oathbreaker, and then Odium tries to grab, or not Odium. What is it? It's the
Retribution.
New Retribution tries to grab him, and then the power says no, you can't because he's someone else's essentially.
Yeah, he just went into the Beyond. That was he was held up a little longer because he was so highly invested. That's why you get held up longer.
So you don't
before
think
you
this
go
is
to
a
the
Kelsier
Beyond.
thing, where all of a sudden
it
the
could
whole
be.
line of him,
it could be, but
I feel like
they
he
did
left
say
some
he's beyond your grasp, he belongs to someone else now. But some people are speculating whether that just means the Beyond.
Okay.
But either way, that Dalinar is gone. At least I don't think if that Dalinar is like a ghost or whatever now in the spiritual or cognitive realm, I don't think we'll see him for a while. But
we're gonna get a Duncan Idaho
Yeah, we're gonna get a Duncan Idaho.
So but he's not. It's like he's dead, but he's not. So.
Yeah, but he also had a very different experience than the Dalinar we knew because the Dalinar we knew changed his whole reality, I guess. So it's gonna be very interesting to see if anything happens. But we're not gonna know for 10 years, so what does it matter?
And that's all I was thinking about. And I was thinking as I was reading the end. So I have read the first era of Mistborn, but I haven't read the second era. Mm-hmm. So there was definitely some if I would not have read first Mistborn era 1, I think I would have been lost at the end. Not lost, but I would not have had as nice of an understanding of the harmony thing and of like the implications of the other shards and other worlds.
Yeah.
So that was like nice to have, but I don't know. I mean, I just don't know if there was. I mean, I knew Sanderson was going to do this. We know that there's 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I mean, he's going to have to continue the series anyway. So, but there's so many things left just undone. I will say, like, I was not seeing, as far as the things that I did not see and the things that like impacted me the most at the end. I mean, Aelin not getting to see Dalinar is tough, dude.
So tough.
That's so tough.
I was thinking about that. Yeah, it's so tough.
So, like, his arc, there were so many things I didn't see with the whole, like, his shard plate, like, coming off of the fuse that he's fighting at the end.
The monarch.
Abidi.
Yeah.
And that was cool. But then my favorite whole storyline along this thing was Kaladin and Zeth. That was still, like, my favorite arc.
Yeah.
And so the very end of that was, like, hyper emotional with the whole
that callback
Ishar.
to Honor is not dead, but I'll see what I can do.
Oh my gosh, dude.
That was so good.
Well, and then just the whole switch where it's like this whole time I'm like, oh wow, like Zeth is gonna become a herald, and then it's like, no, Zeth is not becoming a herald. It's gonna be Kaladin. Kaladin's gonna take his spot.
Say goodbye.
I will say I was nervous for some reason. I thought that was gonna like kill Syl, which I guess it didn't. I think we're good there.
No, she's with him.
But that was, I mean, we were kind of nervous going into this on who was going to die, and surely it's like, oh, I will say Sanderson proved that, yeah, he can't kill Kaladin because he is Stormlight. So
yeah, he is a
to,
Stormlight Archive.
So him becoming a herald, I like, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
And not that, obviously, we both hate the whole depression arcs of Kaladin, but like, I mean, I don't know. It was
I don't even hate it, dude. It was getting a little repetitive.
It's annoying.
It was getting a little repetitive for me. But
in the end,
I've
it
seen
has a
people
huge
talk,
purpose.
Has a huge purpose, and I've seen people talk, and it is true that like in real life, things don't just, you don't just turn a leaf and you're not depressed ever again. So I do get that it's realistic, but yeah, I mean, to go back to what you said, so the moment with Adolin getting his armor back and them saying "Sir" was probably top 3 moments in the book for me, for sure. Adolin's whole arc, and we're going to be so all over the place, so if you're used to this channel, we're going to be so all over the place. But his whole arc, man, was probably my favorite throughout the book. Like, it was just, and it wasn't even like the action was fun.
Yeah.
But I've realized, dude, I don't really care about action that much. Like, it's cool, and it's like, it's a nice payoff when there's cool action moments that kind of pay off like some story.
Yeah.
But dude, it's all about the character and their journey.
For sure.
And Adolin going through the things he was, like, because of his relationship with Dalinar. And also, dude, the reason he's been my favorite character throughout these books is because he's not a Radiant. He says it in his own mind. He's like, I'm like,
he's unimportant.
Yeah, I'm not the guy anymore. Like, I'm in a world of gods. And so for him to go through that constantly, but also just pick up his freaking ancient shard plate that has to be hooked on by 4 different people, while his buddy and his wife can just, have Spren cover them immediately. He just keeps doing it, bro. And he went into such a dangerous situation. It's great, man. So the payoff for him to do that in the end was so good. But another favorite moment that was technically in Adolin's story was him finding Tawn, bro. After freaking Talina.
We did get to talk about this part. This was a huge
moment.
The ending chapter, and then when it comes back, because there's like 2 different, and like it kind of ties into what you were saying about fighting is cool and all, but honestly, the coolest fight scene is one we didn't even see, which is his.
People have complained about that, and I loved that.
Oh,
I like it. It gives it more mystery, and like we don't really know what all they can do.
Dude, he was not going to be able to write. I mean, he probably could have, but yeah, it's way cooler just to our imagination than us having to physically read him destroying.
And it makes sense because now in the next arc in 25 years, we're going to get Kaladin as a herald, so we're going to have somebody that we already know going through the herald thing. We know that Ash and Tawn both have books, so we're going to get flashbacks of them regardless. So that's when we're going to be exposed to like, oh, this is what happens. This is what a herald can do, and what really happens when someone like Tawn goes off. But for Adolin to just see him on a mound of dead fused, a crushed dead fused skull in Tawn's hand with 12 spears going through him, a little crater at the top of the mound just from, I guess, his god force. and then Ash like dying next to him and saying, "I'm not gonna let him go alone this time." That might be my favorite moment in the book. Honestly, it was so good, man. I loved that.
It was a good book. There are definitely some moments too where Sanderson shows you like that there is another level. I mean, you see that with the whole, I guess Kaladin fighting Ishar, where it's like, I mean,
there's another level
it's Nail.
to this.
It's Nail.
Nail.
He's fighting Nail.
When he fights Nail. Yeah.
Where you realize there's another level to this. I will say something that you just have to appreciate. Sanderson for, and this like goes more into like my broad reading thoughts, like in general. It's so tough not to put Sanderson so high, even though like it's gonna sound weird. It is not my favorite like genre within fantasy. I would much rather read about morally gray characters who are bad and stuff like that,
like Abercrombie and stuff.
Yes, Abercrombie, John Gwynn has a little bit of it too, but like where you actually have evil people. The thing that Sanderson does so well is like, there really aren't any. There's no one in this world that's actually evil, which is more like I guess his view on like how the real world is, to where it's like we're more complicated than to just say like you're evil and I'm good kind of thing. Like even if you're looking at someone who's done horrible things, it's more to. I mean, this whole concept of this entire book is, in this more series too, is like, you are more than your choices. Like there's reasons for laws to be broken. Like. There's all these different things where people are trying to find something to abide by, like whether it's the heralds or whatever, and like everything fails, like essentially.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like there's nothing that they can go back to, and that's why it's all about kind of forgiving yourself, but then also, just trying is more the theme. And so it's like, it's kind of like a dang it, because it's like, I mean, Sanderson is right in a way of like, he is doing such a good job of painting a reality that is tough. He's painting a reality and makes it cool without making it boring, I guess, because sometimes I guess that's why I like the grimdark stuff, is because, not that it's less of a reality, but I would like to believe, like, I've met very few people in real life where I'm like, that's an evil person. So it's like, you know what I mean? So more people are just influenced by their different ties, and that's exactly what Stormlight is. And so he makes it to where you can even kind of get what Taravangian's doing.
Yeah, and I think
especially with the whole
like
Jasna
Taravangian, like I do think it's arguable that he's definitely done evil things, but I think even in that case, we have POVs of Taravangian built up throughout the books, and now as Odium and now Retribution. We know that in Taravangian's mind, I mean, he does evil things, bro, like the Carbrant thing, and then when he was killing people to get death rattles, like all that kind of stuff.
But then the Carbrant thing, you find out he's really not that evil.
Well, yeah, that was
so it's like
true. That's a good point, but. He's definitely done bad things, and he's like the antagonist. But we've had POVs where we know Taravangian thinks he's doing the right thing. He thinks he is stopping
the whole greater good, and that's that whole theme there. And that's where he kind of checkmates Jasna, where it's like...
Yeah, which I like that part. That was cool.
I do, too. That's a great part, but then it also comes full circle with what Dalinar does and his whole like talk with Noadon, which was also very cool, too. I'm not a huge flashback
what's going
guy.
on with the Noadon thing, though, bro?
Noadon's something
like, he's
different.
something else. I saw a really cool Reddit theory that he might be the hidden shard. Is it Valor or Reason? Whichever one. I can't remember which one of
I think
those.
It's Valor. Wit says
he might be. I think Reason's the
Valor.
one that, like, Valor's hidden, and Reason I think they haven't heard from, like, since shortly after the Shattering or something like that. But either way, what is up with Noadon? Let us know in the comments. The one person. Tom, let us know what you think happened to Noadon. But yeah, dude, I definitely agree with what you're saying.
Because it's a tough theme of like, all right, kings basically just have to make the tough decisions and like make decisions that they normally wouldn't want to do so that other people don't have to.
Yeah,
and
it's
that's
a cool
the whole
concept
of like, I'll kill Gavinor to save everyone else because like I can't let one person's life stand in the way of millions.
But he breaks that. He breaks that over Odium by just. I mean, and I do think it was funny. Some people also, again, I'm getting all this from Reddit when I reference other people's opinions. I guess I watched a couple of YouTube videos, but some people didn't like that you had back-to-back people breaking their oaths, but I thought it was cool because I felt the same way you did, where Dalinar breaks his oaths, and I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming, even though it had happened twice just
even
before.
Zeth and Sigil both.
Zeth and Sig both, which, dude, the Sigil thing was great, man. One thing I was really worried about with the Sunlit Man when I read it was like, am I going to be invested in this character the same I would if I'd waited to read this, or does this spoil anything for me? And it doesn't, because you do know he's going to live, but you also know Vienta's not around in Sunlit Man. Is it Vienta, right? Was his friend?
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool the way he did that.
Do you wish you would have read it like now after, though?
not necessarily. Well, I guess yeah, but
Honestly, I think I would rather read it now.
I am gonna reread it at some point. Probably not for a year or two once I reread all the books, but
Yeah.
I am gonna read it at the end so I can have more of the impact.
There's
because,
definitely
dude,
going to be stuff in there too where
well,
I
it's
think
Zeth
it's going to be
Spren, bro. So
reaches back.
everything Zeth Spren says in there is gonna, I feel like, be way more impactful because he's gonna be
True.
everything in his life. I mean, I'm sure it's a long time. I don't know when Sunlit
Wait,
Man
so
happens.
Sunlit Man, he has Death Spren?
Yeah, that's auxiliary, dude. That links up with him in the end. Because he never gets Zeth Spren and Wind and Truth never gets called auxiliary until the
'Cause he
very
gets
end.
called the number.
Ishar says you're just an, or Nail, one of them, or maybe the other Spren says you're just a auxiliary for your bonds,
Ah.
feelings, or whims, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he's auxiliary in Sunlit Man, and he hops on that
Yeah, and he's
freaking
telling him
portal,
the story.
Spaceship or whatever to go
Yeah, on
to
Erie.
with Sig. But anyway, yeah, I think I will enjoy it because I didn't love Sunlit Man. I thought it was all right, but I think I
Yeah.
will enjoy it more Cosmere wise.
It's got way more relevance now after.
Yeah, now
because-
that we understand how he got the Dawn Shard, all that stuff.
And I remember there were a couple parts where he references Cal, like certain things where now I can't even remember, but it would make more
Well, yeah,
sense.
at one
like
point
certain
he
references that
sees
he has.
like I can't remember who he saw, if it was a vision or what, but he sees somebody and he goes, Cal. He like thinks it's him, which now it makes more sense because again, I don't know when Sunlit Man happens in the timeline,
Yeah.
but Cal's probably still a herald during Sunlit Man, so it might make more sense that maybe he
Yeah.
could somehow. I guess he could.
He also doesn't have the Dawn Shard anymore in that book.
No, he doesn't. He just has
So,
the leftover.
Whereas you're left with
investiture.
him with the Dawn Shard
Yeah,
at the end of this.
yeah,
At the end of Wind
yeah.
and
That's
Truth.
right. Did he give it back to Wit or does he say?
I think he does give it back to Wit.
I don't even know
but
if we know if Wit's around, but either way,
Did you think Wit was dead? Well, I guess.
no. I mean, I knew once he did what he did, I was like, "There's no way he's dead." But it was
Yeah.
cool the way. That was one thing that really doesn't make sense if you haven't read
Yeah.
Era 2. I mean, I guess you know that you
Era
maybe
2.
remember the name Ladrian from Era 1 because
Yeah.
Wax, the main character, is a descendant of. Is it Breeze that's that's Ladrian? I can't remember.
I can't remember, honestly.
So you do have that name, but I wouldn't have remembered that if I hadn't read Era 2 already. So that is one thing. You have
It does
no
make me
idea
want to
what
read
Wit
Era
is
2.
doing.
Like, finish reading Era 2, I will say.
I hope it's not for the Hoyd interactions because they're slim to none. They might as well
Which
be
is
none.
kind of crazy after.
That's the only thing with me that's a hookup, and I'm trying to figure out where in Era 2 is it because at first when I read it I was like, oh, this is the beginning, but
So
he
do you know who
wasn't
that
a
lady
coachman.
is?
I can't remember who that lady is. I probably should, but it
interviews him?
wasn't like one of the main women that we know from Era 2, I don't think. But him showing up as a coachman, I think that's later in Era 2. So it might be that he had already been going back and forth from Scadrial to Roshar. Because there is a time jump in Era 2, like not a huge one, but like I think some time goes by. So maybe that's when he was in Roshar, but I don't know.
Really
Either
not
way,
all that much time has passed, though, since you first meet Wit at the court with Elokar to.
yeah, I mean it's only
this
been
point.
like a couple years, right?
Yeah, so I mean.
Either way, it doesn't make sense that Hoyd experienced everything he did as Wit on Roshar and then does almost nothing in Era 2 that I recall. I mean, he definitely does a couple things that are important that like are his reason for being there, I guess, but it does seem very
'Cause, I mean,
trivial.
he makes it at the end of
compared to
this. You're like,
Roshar.
oh, Wit's there because he's gonna try and convince whatever shard is on Scadrial to help.
Maybe he
Like,
does
that's what,
say
you know
that
what I'm saying at
he
the
does
end.
say in this book 5, When in Truth, that he would like to meet Sazed someday. So he hasn't yet. So maybe that is a thing, but again, brother, it does not happen in Era 2. So he does
True.
not accomplish that goal if that's it. But either way, that's an Era 2 spoiler. Sorry, but to get back to Wind and Truth, some things we haven't talked about. So just Dalinar in general, we kind of touched on it, but I mean, I thought that was great. That was amazing, right? What Dalinar ends up doing. Dalinar, for some reason, was not the one I was worried about dying. I was worried about Adolin, and I was worried about either Zeth or Cal. I was like,
Yeah, I thought one of them was going down for sure.
especially Zeth toward the end. I was like, oh, this is how Zeth dies. Like, he's gone.
That Nightblood, I mean, that whole Nightblood thing.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, this is diverting from what you just brought up, but dude, I thought Nightblood was gonna become like a human for a second. Like I thought because dude, there's a moment where Nightblood's like saying ideals, and I'm like, is Nightblood about to get
Yeah,
his
it was like,
friend
I will
somehow?
not kill my friends or something like that. Not
Dude,
harm my
'cause
friends.
Nightblood's an issue. And
I mean, yeah,
where is Night? Like, oh well, Zeth still has Nightblood, I guess. He
he
leaves
does,
and has Nightblood.
but he can't use it. He can't use Nightblood.
He's got one arm, dude.
Well, he's got
he's
one arm, but he
Loki
also
now.
doesn't have Stormlight, so Nightblood would
I
kill
mean,
him
no one
immediately.
does. That's
what
the
I'm
thing.
saying. He
Like,
would die.
That's what I'm curious to see.
I
That
think it's
cannot
gonna be.
last for long.
It's got to be. So Lift is supposedly book 6.
Which
I
makes
feel
sense
like
because
that-
she's the only one who can. I mean, she can literally eat.
Yeah.
And
Now I don't know how that'll work because she
'cause
still is.
cultivation's gone.
Yeah, I just don't know how all that's going to work. But either way, she's special. We know that. And now she's
Cultivation's gonna
training
have
with
to come
Vasher,
back.
who made Nightblood. Still wants to find Nightblood, to my understanding, and at least keep it so no one else can use it. So I feel
Yeah.
like Lift's going to end up being the bearer of Nightblood. Like I feel like that's going to be the arc.
She is slowly progressing too, and not. I mean, pretty quickly progressing in a sense of
There's
becoming
got to be
more
more
and
to it
more-
though with Nightblood because at this point, unless you don't have access
Bro,
to
is
your
her mom a
shard blade at
herald?
all,
Is there a possibility for for Lift's mom to be a herald? I don't know enough. There's a couple
there's
heralds
those
where they
two
like
women
basically
that
don't
we really
ever
don't
mention.
know. Yeah, we don't know much about it. Videl and
Some sort of B, one of them.
no, Batar we got a little bit of through. She's that Dora character, so we got a little bit about her. But there's another woman. I can't remember which one. I think her name's. I don't know. But either way, who knows what'll happen with Lift. Dalinar though, I was not
Yeah.
worried about Dalinar, but to get to the end of his arc, basically. I mean, his arc was fun. I would say Day 9, Tanavast chapters were highlights of the book.
Yeah.
Just for world building's sake, I've seen a lot of people complain that this book was too much world building, but that's what I expected, was we were going to get a bunch of answers. I knew we were going to get a bunch more question marks and probably some cliffhangers because, again, it's the end of an arc, not the end of a story. But
Yeah.
we got a lot of world building that we had been wondering about for a long time, specifically what happened with Honor. So I really enjoyed that. But then we get to Gav being aged up by... And, dude, this is...
Gav gets, just shafted, this
Dude,
book, man.
and Jake specifically, this is so funny. He's only on day 5. This is a specific thing. He was on day 2, and he was like, dude, I just feel like Gav's going to end up somehow getting pushed through time and becoming an adult, and I'm going to hate that if Odium ends up using Gav as his champion by doing that. I was like, I hadn't even finished the book when he said that, but I was worried about something like that because Gav is seeing all this terrible stuff, so you start to get the idea that Odium's trying to turn him against Dalinar.
Yeah.
So I was worried about it, but I hadn't finished it, and I was like, wow, that's now that
I
I've
thought
finished
Elokar
it.
was going to somehow come back.
That's what I was thinking. And I wonder if
Like, I
the
really
person
did.
that Gav thought he was talking to
Was
when
himself.
he was himself.
Oh,
Like, which is just sick, man.
there was-
That kid's got to be so messed up.
dude, I will say there's a couple times, though, where... And I get it, it's a book, so it has to progress. But, like, with Jasna and then that whole Odium-Gavinar interaction, like, when he brings Gavinar, and then it's like, oh... I watched you force Elokar to do all these things. You killed your wife. All these examples of how you're a bad person. It's like, we're not going to bring up any of the times, like, Dalinar has literally just given up his shard blade to Sadeas for slaves, or kept his promises to the Mink. Like, there's so many things that Dalinar has done that has proven that he is so much more than that. We're never going to bring up those things. And then the whole argument with where Taravangian kind of corners Jasna and then wins over Finn. It's like, all right, we're playing this whole logic game, but Finn, Odium literally came to your shores and wrecked you guys. And who helped you?
Right.
Jasna. So you can say whatever you want about
Yeah.
like, oh, if in this hypothetical situation that's currently not happening, would you have killed Finn? And it's like, oh, you can't get over that. Odium literally tried to kill you.
Yeah.
And you're gonna make a deal with him? I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, I get what happened where she lost the logic battle, but it didn't make sense.
On an emotional level, it doesn't really make sense for Finn
No,
to do that.
because you can be like, oh, look, we're still rebuilding here,
Yeah.
Finn, and who was that because of? And the little
Right.
rebuilding we've done, who's that because of as well?
Yeah.
Jasna and her
and
abilities.
Dalinar, yeah.
So it's like that was, I liked the emotional decay of Jasna, to be honest. Like her being
Yeah.
vested, I liked that, but that was like, okay.
Yeah, it was a little weak for Finn's character, and
I can't wait to see what happens to me in 10 years from now in book 6, because it's like, oh, you happy with that decision, Finn?
Yeah.
Like, it's like we did all these, I don't know. It's
and
just,
she's going to be getting stormed on the whole time. Like the only place that's not being stormed on right now is Azir. Azir and I guess the Shattered
Aerithiru.
Plains,
Yeah.
and Aerithiru. So yeah, I mean, she's definitely going to come to regret that decision. But I do get the logic of like, you're a leader and you're potentially damning them to Odium's rage, and they all just die anyway. So
Yeah.
I get it, but I do agree that it's like Finn, like for Finn to make that decision, I would have liked more for her to say, Jasna, like, I'm with you, and I'm not doing this because I think you would kill me, but there's no way I can. We lost here, so I'm gonna just sign this.
Yeah.
But for her reasoning to be that she now no longer trusts Jasna after everything they've been through is kind of like, okay, you're gonna believe the guy that you know is your number one big bad in your universe just because she might have killed you a long time ago.
Yeah, it's like, all right, this is the greater good for Thelena or whatever,
well,
which
that
I
whole
get,
thing,
but
dude, the whole concept of
the greater good.
well, no, for anyone in this world of Roshar to be surprised that another foreign leader considered having you killed at a time of war or great tension in Roshar, especially in Alethi like Jasna, who has been built up. The Alethi are all supposed to be war, like about war and military and all that. It's like that's not a surprise for the people in this world. If you told any other character in this world that, they'd be like, yeah, probably. I bet Finn thought about it too. Or at least someone on her council in Phaelin City. So either way, we're getting into the weeds with it.
Well, it does make sense, though. The only reason why it ended up being okay is because then Taravangian explains how it really wouldn't have mattered what she have done. Because if she wouldn't have, he had enough people on the council. I can't remember if he said he was going to have the rest of them killed or whatever, and then it wouldn't have mattered. So in the end, it didn't matter.
And he had already broken up some of the coalition in Azir with some of those other nations. So,
Which I will say, that was a cool thing to see Taravangian take it up and then almost become the good bad guy of like, hey, I'm Odium, but I'm different, and that's why you should trust me, kind of thing. Yeah. But I'm still curious to see, because we learn a lot about honor, obviously, in this honor and Tanavast, and how difficult that is. Like how the whole having a shard, it really is difficult because like you have these things you want to do, but then
shard has
the power of the shard. Yeah, it has things it needs done too.
Yeah.
And then just trying to find that common ground is difficult for any of them. Like, and so I'm curious to see how it goes going forward. I think I am glad that Dalinar isn't Honor. Even though he's gone. Which, again, I don't think he's gone, dude. I
mean, whatever. We'll see.
I know,
we'll find out when we're 40.
He did too many things to make it to where it's like, is he gone? It's not like who's the character that we know is gone? Like, who are the boys that Siggs will just watch get wrecked?
I mean, Leighton.
Leighton's gone.
Teft,
like,
gone.
Like, these are people that are gone.
Elhokar,
gone. So, which I will say, as far as like people were like, where are they at? I mean, Gavinor, they kind of, I guess he's just there on the top. Like, he said he has red eyes or something. So I'm like,
I think it was red eyes from crying. I think is what they said. Yeah, I don't think he's effused or anything, but yeah, I think he was just up there, just like holding his dead granddad that he hadn't seen in 20 years.
So we get no closure from him really on what's going on. And then Moash, where's he at?
Yeah, that was an underutilized part. It was like, I do like that he subverted, you kind of expected Moash to be like maybe the champion. I do like that he didn't do something obvious like that, but his only purpose was to get Sigil where he needs to be for Sunlit Man and to kill a couple of the boys off. Like, to make us hate him more. I mean, I will say, the interlude where he gets spiked is one of the best interludes in the book.
It is, yeah.
But that's like really the only great part of Moash's entire story in Wind and Truth, which is a bummer because which I'm sure he'll be really important now that he's like a Roshar Inquisitor with void light spikes in his head. I mean, he's a problem for the rest of his life.
But him and then the whole L character.
Yeah.
I mean,
L's interesting.
He's interesting, but it's like you can tell it's like one of those things where it's like, I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting book 5. Just, I don't know. I was like, okay. I'm trying to think of a comparison of what it would be in like another book realm. Maybe like the end of Era 1, the start of Era 2. I'm thinking, is he going to do that? Where it's like everything is closed at the end of Era 1. Mistborn, that is. For the most part.
For the most part,
and then it starts out with new characters and, some cool
like
flashbacks and stuff
later.
like that.
Yeah.
I guess I just assumed it was going to be something like that. Whereas maybe it still is. We don't even know. But it can't be because there's so many things that are still...
He put stuff in place to where we know now that for our characters on Roshar, it's not going to be that long as it is in the world. So now it makes sense how...
That is true.
Eras 3 and 4 of Mistborn, which I don't know where they land around Stormlight, but they're way more in the future than even Era 2.
So he's doing 2 eras 2 more eras of Mistborn before he comes back to book 6?
I don't know. I think the third era, yes. And he's supposedly finishing Elantris and some other things before book 6. But I think era 4 is going to happen in between and throughout Stormlight Arc 2. Because we know everything ends with Stormlight. There's no way there's a Stormlight book 10 and then a Mistborn era 4. Like, no one's going to care.
Book 10 is the end. Book 10
to my understanding, there's no way it can be. There's no way.
In-game part 2.
Yeah, it has to be.
And it has to be a Cosmere.
Yeah.
It can't just be about Roshar.
Which I have concerns about. We can get to that later. To stick with Wind and Truth, some things we haven't talked about. Shallan. We have not talked about Shallan at all. This is probably... Shallan I really enjoyed in this book. And if you've seen some of our other Stormlight stuff, there have been times where Shallan has not been super enjoyable in some respects. But I really liked her arc. The only problem with her arc is it was fun for what it was, but her whole arc did seem like, all right, how do we get Shallan stuck in the spiritual realm, essentially? Because her whole need to chase down and kill Mraize just did not, that motivation was just strange to me. Like, during all of this, of what's going on, your husband is going to defend a land that's in huge trouble, and you're going to hop off to the spiritual, and I get it, you want to stop him from messing up what Dalinar's doing, but at the same time, Dalinar is pretty capable, and Navani's with him. The two bondsmiths are together.
Which we still don't even know. They release Mishram and no closure there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be huge in Era 2.
So,
for Era 2.
Well, I will say no. It did have to. At first, I was about to say, well, it didn't even matter, and there's no closure, but that isn't true because Honor was bound. Like, the whole... Dalinar would not have been able to do what he did because Rhiannon and R'hllane had to break that thing because I think that was the last thing.
That was the straw
Honor,
for Honor, for him to be like, okay.
For him to be able to accept power again. So I guess
that was
I forget about that.
That was them
that
fixing Tanavast's broken oath.
Yeah.
Which helped Honor out a lot.
But I agree, though. The whole, and maybe to, play devil's advocate, maybe it's like, oh, well, Shallan didn't know that it was going to take the whole book to... She's like, oh, I was just going to do this one little quick side quest, and then I'll... Yeah, and then I'll help everybody out. But that is tough because it's like, all right, everyone else is literally risking their lives to acquire or protect land.
Like in the greater war, you're just trying to stop one dude that you have a personal vendetta with, which I thought maybe that's the wrong take on it. Because again, I understand that Mraize is potentially a huge danger to all of their goals, but I don't know, man. I mean, he's not a problem any longer, which that was cool too. How she
gets to then talk to Kelsier.
Yeah, which was also cool. But, so Shallan I thought was... My favorite thing about Shallan, though, is she has... all of our characters ended up in such a cool position. But Shallan's is uniquely cool because she is stuck in the spiritual realm, or in the cognitive realm.
Yeah.
Which is insane, and she's pregnant. She's clearly pregnant. She put her hand to her stomach. She's obviously pregnant. He made a point to have the whole shower scene with her and Adolin.
Oh, true.
And she was feeling at her stomach towards the end of the book.
Dude,
it's very quick. If you're not,
catch that.
Yeah,
wow.
it's very quick. But she's definitely pregnant. So Adolin's gonna have a 6 or 7 year old kid that he never gets to meet until probably book 9 or something ridiculous. I already see it. But yeah, anyway, I mean, I think that's not much more to be said for. Other than she's the daughter of a herald, which.
I guess we all didn't know, but I had read enough. To hear
we were all
thinking
that was what was going on. But dude, a huge reveal with that is finding out that the bearer of agonies did not ever break. It was Chana. It was Shallan's mom who broke in Braze and caused the desolation to return. Because I didn't realize, or I just didn't remember that only one has to break. So if all 10 go, the first one that breaks sends them back.
Yeah.
So when Taln was by himself and then Shallan killed Chana, she showed up and was there and Braze with him. Said she lasted a decade. After he had lasted 3,000 or 4,000 years or whatever it was, she couldn't barely last a decade.
No.
And then Taln forgives them all at the end. He's like, that's all he says, but he's like, I forgive you. I can't get over the Taln moments were such highlights in this book, all of them.
Because he didn't even want to be there. Talk about flashbacks with Dalinar and Navani. You get a lot of world building perspective, which I guess you said some people don't like, but it makes all of it make sense, dude. All these other people are just names. Until this happens, all of these heralds, other than Nail, and You get a little bit
a
of
little
town,
bit like Calic.
because Jezreel is the drunk,
yeah.
right? He's the
And
drunk
he's the
that
king
Dalinar
that-
makes the connection with.
Yeah, and he gets killed.
You get some Kellic, like you said, in Shadesmar, but you don't really get a lot of why. Why are they here? What was their backs? You don't really have a lot of motivations on why they are the way they are. And so, I mean, you get so much of that in this book.
And it makes so much sense now, dude, because they are just, they were mortal people who have been alive for thousands of years, experienced thousands of years of torture and all this stuff. So now it's all like, oh, yeah, it's actually more ridiculous that they lasted this long without just burning the world to a crisp. So it is really cool. I'm excited to learn more about them, to hop around some more and cover each character. We briefly talked about it earlier, but, I mean, Kaladin and Szeth, bro. First of all, Szeth's flashbacks, probably the best flashbacks in the series, in my opinion. Just
you like them
so
more than
good.
Dalinar's?
Probably.
Really?
I mean, they're just
I
so
liked them
strong,
a lot, too.
dude. They're just so strong because it's...
Szeth is still one of my... I mean, he's
just
up
such a
there
good
for
character.
me,
And dude, we talked about this early because we were both... It's something we both picked up on and enjoyed. And it's probably because you and I both have great dads. And, like, it's a common thing in books to have, like, a
Bad
reason
dads.
a character is so messed up is because of their parents, which is real life. You hear about that all the time. But to see a character that obviously still has a lot of problems, but to have these flashbacks and it be like an anti-Lyran, be a father that obviously made mistakes and probably shouldn't have just gone along with everything Szeth wanted to do, but his love and his intentions to just always be there for his son were so cool. He might have neglected his daughter a little bit by doing that, but, she's not she's not a POV character. We don't care. But it was cool to see that whole arc, how just... the reason Szeth is the way he is because he felt like he dragged his family through all this, and then he was told he was truthless, and then he thought he was. I mean, it's just he's been through so much. So I really enjoyed that. And then Kaladin's arc was unexpected for it to be like, I mean, we knew he was going to be doing the therapy thing, but that's like really all it was, the whole book until the end.
He does a little flute
and I thought it was cool. Now, so I don't forget about this. I've seen a lot of the people that don't like the book talking about like editing and the writing and the use of modern words. And the one they keep bringing up is therapy. They don't like that the word therapy and therapist were used in the book because that's a modern term.
Every
that's
time
not on
Kaladin
Roshar.
uses it, though, whoever he's talking to says, "What is that?"
But the point they're missing is Kaladin doesn't know that word either. Wit tells him that word.
Yeah.
A world hopper who's been to more advanced worlds. But everybody's complaining and saying that this is an editing and an issue with the language because they used a modern term. They're completely he didn't know what it meant either. He was using it because Wit told him that's what he was doing.
And I'm pretty sure like I said, every time he used it out
everybody's
loud,
like, what?
Everyone's like, "What is that?
What is that word you're saying?" Yeah.
And then he's like, "Wit taught it to me." I mean, I feel
but
like
to
that
go
was
off
brought
that
up multiple
complaint
times.
more, like, at any point did you feel like because we are not literature experts, so it might be terrible for all I know, but I thought it was great. Like, there was definitely those first 300 pages could have been trimmed down a lot. I could have done without Syl talking about the chol between her legs. Like, I could have done without some of the moments.
That was this book. That was brutal.
It was brutal. So I get that, but people are saying, like, just the book in general, the editing was really bad, and supposedly he has a different editor than he had for previous Stormlight books. But again, I'm all about world building, and like I'm cool with it slowing down to give us world building throughout. But a lot of people complain. Did you ever feel like at any point like this is not the caliber I expect from Sanderson?
No, it felt the exact same to me.
That's what I thought, man.
But
and again, we don't know what we're talking about, but I was like,
but do these other people know what they're talking about? I
probably
don't know.
not, dude. They're just
haters.
pretentious booktubers that are like, no, the prose wasn't quite. It's like, bro, is this like old England? Why do you care? It's a story about Spren and swords that appear out of thin air. What are you talking about? But maybe
I'm trying
that's
to even think
just
of a
me. I don't
moment
know.
where, I mean, again, the therapy thing didn't get to me because, like I said, I feel like every single time he
and again,
followed it up
Wit
with
taught him
no
a
one
word.
knowing them.
So and I just was curious. I didn't want to forget about some like the main complaint that I've seen has been about like the editing and like the writing, which I've seen other complaints. Like some people just didn't like some of the arcs. Like some people just thought the book was boring. But I didn't think that, man. I felt like we got what we were waiting for. Like we got so much world. Like this series is a world building series. That's what the plot is.
That's
the
what my
plot
whole
is
review
world
on
building.
Goodreads was just that it's crazy how Sanderson can just keep building on top of his levels of world building, like over and over and over again, and it hits every time. It's not like he's missing. Like it'd be different if he's like, that missed. Like that's how I felt about like Foundry Side. When we read Foundry Side, book 1 was great, but then we tried to continue the world building with the next book, and it's
Shorefall.
I mean, it's bad. Like
Yeah,
in my opinion, it was
enjoy
bad.
that.
Like not just like not good. It was bad. So I mean, it credits due where I mean, it's not easy to do what he's doing. Obviously, with how long he has to plan things out for, because for all this to make sense, he has to literally plan he has to just plan so far in advance. So I appreciate that. It's definitely not my favorite book in the series still, but. Like you said, the world building's so good. I guess when you think about it, there really isn't as much action that happens. And mainly that's because Taravangian comes into the picture, and his whole thing is about winning without fighting, because that's not his thing.
Yeah.
Which honestly is more interesting. Like you said, if this is just like a huge battle thing, then I don't know how interesting it is, which we still get a lot of that with Adolin's whole arc and Sigil's whole arc.
Like, it's all battle, which I felt like, dude, Sigil's, we've talked about him a few times, but every one of his chapters or moments in a chapter
was solid.
So solid, bro. The picture he paints at one point where the Everstorm's going crazy, fused, heavenly ones are running around. You got the dudes that are like elastic, that are a huge problem that you have to get like a 4 football field flying start to kill. Like, it's just so epic. But he paints this picture at one point in one of Sigil's chapters where it's like, all this crazy stuff that seems like the world is ending is going on, and then there's just windrunners just zipping around, being an absolute like pest and annoyance to and stopping them from taking the plateaus, whatever. Dude, it was just so good, man. And it was just such an epic picture I had in my mind of these windrunners that are so badass, and like they're like kind of the guys of the Radiance for wartime, and they're just like they just don't care, bro. Like, they're clearly going to lose this battle. Like, they are so outnumbered and out-armed and all that. And they're just going, bro.
Well, his
running
arc
out of Stormlight.
His arc is, I mean, he has to be, you get the violence of, like, him actually killing people, especially, like, when Leighton dies and he just kind of goes off.
Yeah.
So you get that, but then at the same time, he has to, I mean, there is extreme strategic planning.
Yeah.
So you get that, too. But then also, like, the shock factor of he's the first person to break his O's. Where you're like, wait, we can do that? Like,
yeah.
And it's
like, well, you're going to start doing that.
And it was just, I mean, that was a heavy hitting moment, which it makes sense, why he does it, obviously. But it's, I mean, Sanderson always has something in his back pocket, and that's how I felt about the whole Dalinar thing. I'm like, what is he going to choose to do?
Yeah.
Like, I had no idea. I'm like, I don't know what he's going to choose, because right now his 2 options, and Sanderson does such a good job of like really going down each option for Dalinar and like playing that out. And then it's like, man, what is the better option? Because I thought he was going to become his.
That's where I thought it was going. So there's no way he kills Gav.
He can't.
There's no way. So
he cannot. But then that was also like, is this Gav? For a while, I'm like, there's no way this is Gavinor. But anyway, but I mean, the whole dropping your O's thing is crazy. But I mean, I get why they're doing it. And so, but the interaction that I genuinely liked the most. And it's bad because I still don't even know his name, because honestly, every time I read his name, I was like just going right over it. And that's the King of Azir, or the Emperor of Azir.
Oh,
what is his name?
Yanagon?
Yanagon,
however you say it.
Him and Adolin, their whole interaction was solid, dude.
It was so good. And that the references and the build-up, or not build-up, but like
the towers
kind of the world building of, the towers, but also just seeing more of like, Sanderson is just good at like, creating a picture of different cultures for you and how they treat the Emperor, but he really doesn't do anything like that important.
But then it matters, though, at the end.
Well, yeah, no, it's very important. But it's just cool how he built that culture, and like, Adolin's with them. He's kind of like a fish out of water, around this culture.
Yeah.
But dude, again, we jump around so much. Adolin's ending place, bro. I mean, he's one of the few, like, him and his 10 unoathed, I think is what he called them. Like, they have access to, like, not surges or anything, but
now they're on top kind of again.
They're on top, bro. Like, this whole arc of Adolin, like, basically being useless compared to all the Knights Radiant. Now
they don't need Stormlight.
Now it's like, there's no Stormlight, so you're back to us, and we got an upgrade. Like, they're the guys now, dude, and it's such
I didn't think about that, honestly.
It's such a cool group, bro. It's Adolin, it's Yanagon, it's Nora, it's May, his ex-girlfriend, Aladar's daughter, I think, and several others. Nodum, the honor spren,
who literally puts on.
It's like, bro, what's happening? And again, it's like, the world building matches up though, because you're getting these. It's some of it's in the epigraphs, but like Wind coming back, like and waking up, and the powers of Roshar, even without Stormlight and without the bonds, like it's the Sprint and all this stuff's still going to be able to kind of grow, because Wind's coming back. Like who knows what happens with all that, but great ending spot for Adel. I was worried the whole book, like this is it, like, and especially with how good his arc was, I was like, this is Adolin's book, which I still think that to me this is the Adolin book, like for sure. Like it's Zeth's flashbacks, it's Kaladin becoming a herald, it's Dalinar giving his life, but as far as like reading it, it was Adolin's book to me, so that made me feel even more like this is where he dies. Like he gives him a really good send off, a really good like culmination point, and then he's gonna die. So for him not to, I was so satisfied, man. Once I realized Adolin was safe, which was, you still had a little bit to go before then, or when that happened, I was like, oh man. I read the book with much more like with less tension, because like, oh, Adolin's good. Like he still could have died in some like random subversion thing, but anyway.
It is sad that he never gets. I mean, he kind of gets that. Dalinar gets to do whatever he does.
Yeah, it gives him like an impression of an idea or something. Yeah,
that was tough to see, man.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough.
See, because I'd kind of forgotten, like when I started back up. So I reread The Way of Kings and then most of Words of Radiance before this. I was trying to cram all in, like just doing them on Audible. And so in those, he has such a good relationship with Dalinar. And so I've forgotten in the end of Oathbringer, and then I guess all of Rhythm of War, like I forgot that they're like not on good terms.
Yeah.
And so like jumping back into this one, I kind of had to just remind myself that, because I'm like, oh wait, they're boys. Because in those first two and really I guess the first three books, really, I mean, Adolin's the one going to bat for Dalinar like all the time, especially when Dalinar is like at that point in his life where he's like not really going to stick up for himself anymore.
Yeah.
So it was just like, it sucks. It sucks to see that happen, but there was some closure there. It wasn't honestly enough closure that I wanted. I would much rather have.
Tough. It was tough, and it's probably going to be something that
Adolin,
there's probably going to be some development with that, with him not, even though he did get that impression, and Renarin got one too of like his dad being proud of him, which was really good for Renarin. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But again, I feel like we're going to miss so much, but to try to cover everything in a succinct time, Renarin we haven't talked about.
Yeah,
Renarin and R'lain. Which a bunch of we'll have to make a separate video, dude. So when I finished the book, I went on Goodreads and I gave it a 5. We'll talk more about just our ratings and spoiler free at the end, but I loved it, gave it a 5, and I went to the 1-star reviews and just looked at the people who wrote reviews, and almost all of them were people who didn't finish the book because they didn't like that there was a gay arc incoming. And I was like, bro, regardless of what you think of that, how is a book this good going to be ruined for you because of that? So it was some of that, dude.
Too, man. It was so
really
minimal.
Was so it's like, what, even if you don't like that, like, I mean, grow up, but also it's barely in there. But it's like, some of the people were either upset about that or they just didn't like it and didn't finish it. So most of my comments got banned, even though I didn't cuss in any of them. I didn't say any like hate crime thing or any. If anything, dude, I was doing the opposite. I was standing against the hate crime of people hating this because there were gay people in it.
Irony.
But all my comments got removed, but I did screenshot them, so we'll make a.
I don't know if they did though, because I saw them on my feed.
Well, not all of them. Sorry, a handful stayed. So you saw one that stayed because that one was like, I guess, non-offensive. I made a perpendicularity joke, but
that was funny.
Most of the people who gave it a 1-star review, and I didn't realize this was a thing, didn't finish it. They said I stopped reading. Some of them were like 20-30% in, and they quit. And I'm like, you didn't read this book then. And you can't mark a book as read if you did not read it.
I noticed some of them like weren't even physically reading it either. They were like audibling the book.
Which, I mean, that's fine. But it's like you're going to audible 20% of a book and then mark it as read and give it a 1-star review. That's crazy to me, bro. I mean, it's a free country, but like that's just like ridiculous. So anyway, I don't know how we got on. Oh, Renarin and R'lain, both of their stories were cool and obviously intertwined. I mean, overall, like, I felt that arc was really solid. Like, and it made sense that, like, with Renarin and R'lain, like, being together, that they're both going to be kind of representatives of the other species for the opposing species in some kind of way, and going to kind of bridge the two, which is obviously going to happen with having Vinley and Leshwi and their people on the Shattered Plains, not necessarily with or working with Jasna and the good people or our protagonists, but they're definitely not with the antagonists. So that's gonna be a cool bridging of the Parshendi and the singers, I should say, and the humans.
I don't know if I'm fully satisfied by Rhiannon's like arc or whatever, and I don't know if that's just because I don't understand his powers or whatever, but I don't know. It didn't. I mean, I guess it served obviously a purpose, but I just feel like it should be more important, like what he's able to do.
It is still confusing
as far
me,
as
like what
seeing into the future. Maybe it's not the future,
yeah.
Because I think it obviously played a very important role in this book, and I don't know if that's because I didn't fully comprehend what was going on or what. Because I guess they're kind of hidden the whole time. I guess what they're doing from Odium. I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I think maybe in the later arcs, maybe it'll matter more.
Well, Renarin's one of the books. I think he's the seventh book. Yeah, like he's one of it's Lift Renarin.
Dude, I can't see that one being great. That one's gonna have to be.
It's gonna be great. I think it's gonna be good. But it's Lift Renarin, then I believe Ash,
Lift is
then
book 6.
Taln. Yeah, and then the last one is Jasna. Isn't that crazy? Jasna's book 10.
Dude,
at least if I'm remembering correctly.
I'm gonna be honest. I would like to see Jasna on a villain arc.
I mean, who knows, bro?
But the thing is, dude, that's the only downfall with this series for me is who is actually bad. You know what I mean? I guess you can make an argument for Taravangian, but dude, it's just at the end of the day, like even Taravangian is not, dude. To compare it to what we read next,
I mean, he wants to take over the Cosmere. So I mean, he wants to.
But in like Dark Age, dude, by Pierce Brown.
I mean,
you want to talk about people that are bad people. I mean, dude,
yeah, for sure.
There's no one even close to that. Like, who is going to do what they were going to do to our boy Daryl.
Yeah, you're right about that. But that's just a different tone of book, dude. Like,
yeah, but there's got to be someone in the Cosmere who's that bad. You know what I mean? And regardless if
I feel
Sanderson
like the big bad in the freaking Cosmere is going to be Kelsier if he doesn't chill out, dude.
Which
I mean, this
crazy.
Dude's motives are wild. Like, I don't even know what he's trying to do, but he is not helping.
He was helping Shallan, though, so it's like that's also...
Not really, though, dude. Like, he's
talking with her.
She killed 2 of his people. You got to remember, dude, Yaddle and Mraize were his people, dude. And they're they're not the antagonists, but they were not the good guys at all.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, they worked for Kelsier.
But what were they actually doing that was bad?
I mean, for us, from our perspective, they were hindering the protagonists from doing what they wanted to do for selfish motives. Because all they're trying to do is Kelsier's trying to figure out how to get Stormlight off the planet.
Yeah.
It's like
now there's none.
A very selfish
So I don't know
motive.
what your goal was, but there's no Stormlight.
Well, that's why he said he's like, Roshar doesn't really matter to me as much now. Which it's like, I mean, dude. So, I mean, not that we should expect... Kelsier never was supposed to be some benevolent protagonist, but it is still frustrating. But either way, I'm trying to think of what else we haven't covered, like character or plot-wise. I mean, Dalinar and Navani are going through the visions. Gav is with them. Shallan's in there.
Navani's ending is interesting because she's
she's like frozen
in a coma.
It's like in a Han Solo situation almost.
I had to reread that a couple times.
Yeah,
I was not very
like they're behind Crystal or something.
Well, between that and then I don't know if you realize this too, but in the scene when Dalinar is fighting Gavinar, he's like, "I'm not going to pick up a blade," and then Taravangian like starts like kind of taunting him with the blade, and then all of a sudden he has the blade.
Yeah, he takes it from Taravangian.
But I went back and read it. He never says that he takes the blade. It's just all of a sudden he has the blade. Because I'm like, wait, am I dreaming? Because at first I was like, oh, he's now like looking into a future where he takes the blade. And I'm like, no, he took the blade. But
I think
it was very weirdly worded.
Yeah. I think the reason he did it that way is because like Dalinar was trying not to, and then he realized he was in a situation where it's like, I'm going to die if I don't defend myself. So he just grabs it, not even thinking about it. But
we didn't talk about Lift a ton. She definitely has some up moments. Her and Wit, dude. I mean, Wit.
Oh, yeah.
Wit in this book, especially early on, I mean, you get more from Wit in this book.
Yeah, you do. And his interaction with Ryan, with the other Dawn Shard. Dude, that was a really cool scene. I really enjoyed that.
So where did she go?
She said she had to leave. I assume she's leaving the planet because I think my understanding is Dawn Shards are not supposed to even be on the same planet. Because it's just too dangerous because of what almost happened with Wit and Ryan. Which, is her name Risen? I'm calling her Ryan.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was really cool to see and to find out that... Because this whole time we thought Wit didn't have one anymore. We thought that he just had the leftover investiture from it. Or at least I think that was my understanding.
Yeah.
Or maybe we learned somewhere else and I just forgot. But it was definitely
Well,
a revelation.
In Sunlit Man, we knew he gave it up to Sigil, but we knew Sigil, I think, gave it back. So I don't know if we assumed.
I just don't know if he actually says he gave it back to Wit, or if we're just assuming that. But either way, I think that we thought that Wit did not have it anymore, or at least he said he did. Maybe we learned that he did.
I still don't know what the Dawn charts are, dude.
I mean, no one does. We know that there's 4. We know that 2 of them are changed
all of the
and
Cosmere?
exist. Yeah, and
So
we know
he has exist. Because that's what
yes.
Sigil.
Yeah, he had
says
exist.
What does?
And so Ryan has change.
Mm.
So we don't know what the other 2 are. We know that there are 2 more. We know that one of the 4 Dawn shards is different than the other 3, but we don't know if that's one of the 2 we already know about or one of the other 2 we don't know about. We know that they are the things, they're commands from Adonasium that he used to create the world, and supposedly they were also what the 16 or however many used to shatter Adonasium in some way, which I believe is the reference that Wit makes when he says I was carrying something, or someone was carrying something designed to kill a god without even knowing it. Something like that. I think when Wit, I don't know. Honestly, who freaking knows? I learned the other day that I think it's Dragonsteel is the name of it, was like the first book that Brand had written, but he said it's bad, so he never released it. But it's Hoyd's backstory, which he says he's supposed to go back to. But that was one of the first things he wrote. I didn't realize that till I watched a couple interviews with him after I finished the book, and then I was on Reddit a ton. I can't remember where I saw it, but either way, yeah, Wit stuff was cool. Lift stuff was cool. Her being with Vasher is super exciting, dude. Vasher is such a cool character. I'm so annoyed though, man. In the year of the Sanderson update, year of the Sanderson or whatever, his end of the year update, he doesn't say anything about Warbreaker.
Yeah,
I'm so disappointed.
And Nightblood's massive in this. I mean,
yeah, and I just want to know like what else happens with Susabrin and Ciri, how Vivenna ends up becoming a world hopper, like why Vasher leaves. Like we don't know any of that. We don't know what happens with them.
Yeah, and
we really don't even technically know what happens at the end of that book because it all just kind of ends.
And that was a good one too of
so
the
good,
other
man.
ones, which I haven't read a lot of them, but that
it's still my favorite of all the other stuff outside of Stormlight and Mistborn.
Yeah,
Elantris just did not do it for me.
See, I haven't read any of those. I don't know.
Tress was all right. I thought it was cool, but anyway. Wind and Truth. Anything else, like spoiler-wise or Cosmere, anything you can think of that we didn't talk about? I feel like we hit most of the characters. Obviously, we're going to miss a ton, so if there's anything big we missed, leave us a comment.
I'm trying to think of anything we haven't talked about. Because we talked about Zeth's backstory. We liked that. Mm-hmm. We haven't talked a ton about Jasmine. We have, like, a little bit here and there. Her getting bested. That's really all it was. I mean, her and Wit break up.
Yeah, which, I mean, I felt like I saw that coming. There's no way. I mean, he's like a god. Yeah. He's an immortal world hopper. I mean,
yeah. You think they're done?
I mean, maybe they'll get back together.
I was hoping she would get pregnant
with Wit's kid. That would be crazy.
Which I don't know if anything transfers over, like power investiture wise, but probably not. But
I guess we really don't even know what Wit is still. Like.
Yeah.
Is all his power related to him holding to a Dawn shard for a long time? I guess it could be.
Well,
and obviously he's picked up the magic systems of all these other worlds.
Well, then he started telling the one story to Dalinar as he's walking up to the thing, and I'm like, so is Wit in this story? Is Wit telling a story about himself?
I think he was saying he was the king.
That's what I thought he was saying too, dude. I went back and read it twice because I was like, at first I don't know, it's like he makes a brag about the king. And then I'm like, wait, is he doing that because he is the king?
Right.
And then there's a reference to where he knows these people.
Right.
So it's like, is he talking about how he knows himself?
Right.
It was a very, a Wit thing to do, to phrase it the way he did. Because all of his stories, it's like, See, I thought he was telling a story about Tanner.
Maybe he was.
Like the boy who was brought up, like the lowborn to try and compete with the highborn, was Tanner, who then gets sent off, and then it ends up being good because then that king was going to get killed anyway.
Yeah. Well, then I think he compares what Honor is now to the little boy in the story, right? Because Honor is supposed to be like a kid that's just running away, kind of.
Well, when he goes to see Noadon, then Honor literally is a unisex child.
Yeah, which I thought was cool because it's like, even though he's been without a vessel for thousands of years or a long time.
Yeah.
In a shard's like lifespan for lack of a better term, like that's nothing. Like he's still like a child as far as his development.
Well, I didn't know. We haven't talked about this, that cultivation and honor, you know.
So I had seen a lot of that. I think
thing.
that was kind of the assumption, but we never got a confirmation on it. But
Yeah.
I just didn't realize. It was cool how they did it. Like they were lovers or whatever before they had picked up shards. So like there's a history to them, which is why they were drawn to each other. But dude, I will say, I know we briefly touched on it. I loved those Tanavash chapters.
Yeah.
Like first of all, it was cool seeing the difference between the vessel and the shard and how that like tension is created, which helps you understand even more, and you get some of it from his perspective, but it gives you even more of appreciation for Taravangian, who now has odium and honor. Like he's retribution now, but he has two separate things.
Yeah.
That's why a thing with harmony, and you get this some in the Secret History of Mistborn, and I think some in Era 2, but like there's a theory that he's going to not be harmony forever, that he's going to become discord, that will be his new thing, because ruin and preservation are so like, you know, they can work in like a cycle, but he's one person trying to do both of them, which is causing some discord, which is obviously going to be a thing for Taravangian. Like he's going to have a problem satisfying odium and honor. But man, that was so cool, all the Tanavash stuff. And then when he becomes retribution and realizes why this is not good for him, he gets that moment where all the shards turn their gaze on him, essentially. And it's like, oh, this is what Dalinar was doing.
Queen's
He was
Gambit
shortening,
or whatever it's called.
Yeah, the Sunmaker's Gambit. He was
Gambit.
shortening Taravangian's preparation time, essentially. Which, like, when you say it that way, sounds silly, but that was Taravangian's a brand new shard bearer.
Yeah.
So that's not the right term in this world. Either way, he's a brand new vessel. So, like, he doesn't have the time that he wanted to learn how to do what he needs to do. So it's going to be fun seeing all these shards, like, just how they reacted. I'm so excited to see, like, reason and valor and where they come in. And now knowing that things work the way they do, like, I feel like there's still opportunity for even the ones that have been splintered or killed. Like, there's 2 stuck in the cognitive realm that were, like, shattered, so the vessels are dead, but now the shards are stuck in the cognitive realm somehow, which is why the Elantris magic is the way it is. Right? No. Because, Ray's never wanted to. That's mentioned at one point, and the reason he didn't is twofold, because of the things Taravangian's experiencing, because the shards would have differing desires, and because he knew it would bring attention to him by having that much power. Because they already know Ray's is a problem, and odium itself is a problem. Another cool thing we learned, which apparently this has been mentioned before, but I must have missed it, but Ati, who picked up Ruin, who was from Mistborn Era 1, they said he was the kindliest of all the people who picked up a shard, and that it was like a bold, like he showed a lot of bravery in picking up that shard, Ruin. So that's that kind of a cool thing that you learn, like the guy who we saw was clearly like, you know, completely corrupted by the shard, but he was like probably the best guy of all of them to pick up a shard.
And
he ended up being, you know, evil essentially. But yeah, man, just so much stuff. I feel like we could talk for 5 hours about it, but I feel like we've hit the big
Where does
stuff.
it rank for you amongst the books?
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to get into. So we're going to get into our non-spoiler review.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep, if you're here now, this is where we're not talking spoilers. But just to rate the book, so I gave it a 5. I think out of 10, it's probably a 9.5 for me. Where it ranks, it's tough because, so it definitely is above Rhythm of War and Way of Kings. But I think Words of Radiance is probably, I don't know, man. Oathbringer's been my number 1, but then I've thought back and I'm like, maybe Words of Radiance is my number 1. And the payoff to me of Wind and Truth is so, so good. And that's what really brings it up. So, I mean, right now, with it still being fresh, it might be Words of Radiance. Dude, I don't know. It might still be Words of Radiance, Oathbringer, then Wind and Truth, and then Way of Kings and Rhythm of War. I might swap those top 2 around still, Oathbringer and Words of Radiance, just because I love Dalinar so much and his backstory.
Yeah.
So they're still all solid 5s, but I don't know if it's better than those 2 just as a whole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd have to, I'm going to, like I said, and probably, maybe not in 25, but maybe in 2026 if I'm still alive, I'll reread all of them. and maybe have a better idea, because I've never reread any of these. So Way of Kings, I read that back in, it's been like 3 or 4 years since I read that book.
Re-listening to it was nice.
So I think that's where I'm at. Again, for me, it's a 5 out of 5. I think it's amazing. It definitely has its faults, in my opinion, more so at the kind of the beginning, the first fourth of the book. There's just a lot of that could have not been there, in my opinion. But yeah, where would you put it? What'd you rank it, and where do you put it in the series?
So I'm about to sneeze. Probably the same. Probably 3. I think Oathbringer is my favorite still. Words of Radiance, it might be 2 actually. It just depends. It's tough because I don't know. I'm trying to, like, if I go by like moments, dude, honestly, some of my favorite moments are in Rhythm of War. Like, dude, the Adolin moment with Maya in Rhythm of War, dude, is
so good.
That's top 3 moment for me in Stormlight. So it's just tough, but yeah, it's either 2 or 3 for me. Oathbringer is still 1, and then it's probably interchangeable with Words of Radiance.
Yeah, see, Words of Radiance still, Kaladin hopping in with Adolin and fighting with him against those other shard bearers.
Top 5 scene for sure.
Yeah, top 3 for me, but then also, dude, just the whole fight between Szeth and Kaladin.
Yeah.
And like, dude, the line that is a top 3 line, and it's not because of its impact, it's because of how much I felt it when it happened, is when Szeth screams at Kaladin, "They called me truthless." And like, truthless is in all caps, and I just pictured him like super emotional and like screaming it. Just that whole fight, dude, and what Szeth is going through is so good. And those are both in Words of Radiance. But yeah, Oathbringer, dude, you cannot have my pain.
Dude.
Top 3 moment.
Dude.
That's the thing, dude, is my top 3
moments
moments are probably
one,
Oathbringer and Words of Radiance. Now, I will say, dude, I don't know why, but, dude, Adolin pulling up on Tom is top 5 moments in this whole series to me.
What's interesting to me is Adolin is one of my favorite characters, but he is your favorite character, right?
Yeah.
And Mike, I think, are arguably him and Dalinar are like your 2, probably. Maybe not.
Yeah, probably. It's Kaladin and Dal might flip a little.
Flop. So, but my favorite, they're...
I don't know, dude. Jasna, actually, dude, Kaladin's not my top 3. It's all Colin's for me, dude. It's Adolin, Dalinar, and Jasna.
Really?
Yeah, I love Wit, but I don't even think of Wit as a...
See, all my favorite characters are those kind of characters, to be honest.
Yeah, like Wit, Szeth,
Zahel. They're like all the ones you don't get a ton of. Anyway, it's just funny.
Vinley's probably actually my favorite.
Yeah,
Stormlight character.
Yeah, Vinley's clutch, dude.
Dude, she's the best.
Even the Vinley chapters, even in this one, man,
they're just never. They will never be good, dude. They're good. I shouldn't say that, but they will never compare to the rest of the
singers,
POVs.
Dude. I do not care about the singers, and I don't know if that's me being racist or whatever.
Xenophobic, I think, is the term. Yeah.
Well, it's not even a race thing because they're.
Well, yeah, I think xenophobic's like another species or like an alien, which it's like, why do we even have that word, bro?
Because,
I could be totally wrong.
Why do we have that in English? Yeah,
I might be showing my white conservative a little bit. I might have that definition wrong.
It's just tough, dude. It's tough to care, man. Like, I cared a little bit more because of the world building here, but I don't know, man. The whole humming to whatever appreciation and whatnot. Yeah, I get it. Like, as far as like, oh, it's creative, but
yeah, I feel like that's one of the few things in this entire series and all of the Cosmere that would be better portrayed in live action, where you could hear, where it could have more meaning. I don't know what these different rhythms sound like. Like, it's just like, you know what I mean? And I get that that's not...
Just think of all the different species in Galadriel that you care way more Scadrial, whatever.
Yeah, like the Khandra.
The Khandra are so much cooler.
Yeah, they're way cooler than this. Yeah,
it's... The Faceless... Or the guys who are with Risen, the little crabs.
Oh, the Sleepless.
Sleepless, those are super cool.
Yeah, those are really interesting.
Anyway, it's just the Spren. I care about the Spren.
There's so many things that are
but, yeah, I don't know.
More compelling than the singers.
The singers, it's a tough ask for me, personally.
Yeah,
but
we're just speciesist. But it's just that it's like, it's cool. I like the story, but it's more just getting POV stuff about them is like Just tell me what I need to know, because I'm not a singer. My body's not made of carapace, so I don't. I mean, dude,
I'm not relating.
like, I'm just not relating with these people.
Yeah.
I get I'm supposed to, because they were enslaved and, you know, had their autonomy essentially taken from them when they were Parshendi. But either way, Vinley's always going to be the weakest. I think that's just set in stone.
True.
But even still, her parts were integral to this story, so they did have a good culmination point.
I will say we haven't talked about this here, but we did before, and this is just one of the last things, I guess. I mean, dude, them having 800 names.
We just went right back into spoilers without even thinking about it, dude. Like, we suck at this so bad. This is why we don't have views. Like, we're just talking and going back and forth, regardless of what anyone is looking for or thinking while they're watching it.
Well,
if you're still
alert.
watching at this point, I don't even know what you're doing. Like,
well, dude, they even try and help you out by putting like little posters up of like, beware if you see this type of fuse. But dude, having all of the different types of fuse have a different name other than the radiance.
The focused ones, the heavenly ones.
Oh my god, I had no idea.
The deepest ones.
The deepest ones I could conceptualize.
Yeah.
But
One
dude,
heavenly ones I could too, because it's like they're in the sky. Heavenly.
yeah, but dude, there were so many other ones.
Focused
the
ones, the
ones,
magnified ones, the husk
What
ones.
is that one, dude?
Yeah, dude.
I don't
What is
know.
the difference between I think the husk is. See, no, I think
don't
the
know.
magnified one is the one that can like grow like a huge weapon as an arm or something.
Maybe.
The focused ones, I think, are the ones that are made up of karate
Belts?
belts or whatever.
Which did what? I can't even remember what that did.
I think it just made him like super durable. Like, that's why Sigil had to like, I mean, literally, he had to back up like a mile and fly from a distance to ram a spear through that thing's head. Which, again, dude, like, we're just this whole video is spoiler. Like, there's not. We'll have 30 seconds at the end where we say this book's great for non-spoiler. Oh, God. Yeah, that was tough to follow, which, again, they did give you the pictures. But my thing with anything like that, with whether it's a glossary, an index, bro, I'm not putting my hand or my bookmark in the book in the middle of a chapter and going to a glossary or looking for a picture somewhere so that I can have a reference. So that stuff is cool when I pass it in the book, but it's not getting looked at again.
Those aren't. I will say I looked one time at the map, one or two times, and it was when it was the interlude with the shoemaker's family who was killed, and those other world hoppers pull up on them.
Oh yeah,
and
you find out Nail killed that guy from the previous interlude that we got.
Yeah, and that was from The Way of Kings.
Was it that far back?
That was The Way of Kings.
That's crazy, man. That is crazy.
So anyway, that's crazy. But what was I gonna say? Oh, I was like, where is Erie? Or is it Erie?
Yeah, Erie.
Because it's like,
or Erie Island,
I'm like,
whatever.
I can't even remember. It's like, all right, they're leaving somehow. They have that spring that like comes out that's huge and like it's a
like
waterfall
a kraken.
thing. Yeah,
It's out of nowhere.
And it's like, oh yeah, I remember this from way back in the day when we read The Way of Kings. So anyway, I went to look to see, all right, where even is that? And it's like, oh, that makes sense. It's past Shinovar. It's so far west.
It's way out yonder.
But I mean, somehow they've got some stuff figured out.
They
out
know
there
they know a
because
lot more than our characters have for 6,000 pages.
Because
Like,
I mean, dude, they can just
stuff.
hop off
Yeah.
worlds. It seems like,
Like,
over
it's
there.
time to leave. The day has come where the Kraken comes out of the
And they
the
know.
ocean.
They all know what's up. Like, we've had our bags packed this
Like,
whole
we're
time.
leaving. And
Yeah.
then you had just random people. You had Demu there who's from Mistborn, was one of those people.
Okay.
You had Galadon, which is a character from Elantris, and I can't remember who the third person was. But that was cool. I looked into that. They're called the 17th Shard, and they're like a they don't intervene on anything that has to do with like shards or other planets. They just observe.
Okay.
And supposedly their Frost, the dragon, is like their leader or a part of their group. Which only thing we really know about him, I think, is that we've gotten some epigraphs that are a letter between him and Wit, letters between them. Anyway, I don't know if there's much else we haven't covered, but if you're watching this for some reason, like, let us know your thoughts in the bottom. We just wanted to throw up all of our thoughts since Andrew finished the book today. But overall, here you are at the very end of the video if you wanted the non-spoiler portion. We think this book is great. The character development is great. Where all the characters end up is great. This book definitely has flaws and some moments that could have been different or omitted. But we both enjoyed it.
This is a
it
Herald
felt like
book.
a strong...
To me,
You
this
get
is
a lot
about
of
the
info.
Heralds. This is a focus. I mean, obviously, there's so many things that happen, but You get more about the shards and the heralds.
Yeah, you
It's
do.
the main takeaway I
Well,
took from
it's
this
world
book.
building.
It's world
This
building.
book is exactly what I expected it to be. I still, again, don't know why people were upset by this. This book is the culmination of 4 previous books of world building question marks and little trickles of information. Now you get everything along with the culmination of the plot that is led up to what we know is the confrontation between Dalinar and Odium.
And this book is an explanation of the prologue of the Wave Kings.
I mean,
Which
it
is
took us
crazy
a
to
while.
think about.
We got there, though.
We did.
We are here
Of them
now.
all putting their shard blades down, and it's like, what's
Books
happening
6
here?
through 10, those prologues better not be the night Gavilar died. Something else. It better be like the day that Retribution ascended or something.
So do you think it's going to start off with a hardcore event like that, and then we're going back and forth to it?
That's my assumption. Is that so? My
Same
assumption
style?
is that even so we know Lift, Renarin, Ash, Tawn, and Jasna are the characters, but flashback wise, I guess it's really one character. Like Renarin, what flashbacks are we going to get? We've gotten from his exposition or from other people talking, we kind of know what his childhood was like. Like we got that.
And we got that a
down.
little bit in this book, too.
So what I think his flashbacks are going to be, and what I think at least some of Lift's flashbacks are going to be the time gap that we missed. And then Ash and Tawn, we're obviously going to get ancient flashbacks, but we're probably also going to get the flashbacks just to the time between Arc 1 and 2 where they're with Kaladin in the Cognitive Realm, Braze, whatever. And then Jasna, the fact that she's the last book, dude, that must mean that one day in her childhood that keeps getting referenced to where she was locked away must be so freaking important to the Cosmere.
What is that?
We're not going to know what it is until the last book when I'm 45 years old.
Dude, I read that. I read right over that, and I'm like, wait, what?
We've gotten really light references to it. And it's like, at first I thought, oh, Jasna had this crazy child. But it's really this one day, dude, or this one event where she got locked away. And it's like, what did she do? What could she have done? She's an Elsecaller. Did she accidentally throw someone into the freaking spiritual realm? Like, what happened? So anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, but I think
Set up for 6 through 10.
So yeah, I think prologues could be a number of things, but if he sticks with the format of it being one event that are different characters' POVs, for it to be all the characters that we have, which I guess it doesn't have to be the character we have. Was every character? No, because like book 5 was Zeth's book, and that was Gavilar's POV in the prologue. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that the character who we're getting flashbacks of is the POV for the prologue. So that being said, what I would assume potentially that moment would be when Retribution ascended, when Taravangian became Retribution rather than just Odium. I would think that the prologue might be taking us all the way back to essentially that final moment to give us more context as to what happened, because we know what we were told, but we don't. I mean, there's no Stormlight, but there's freaking Taravangian light, whatever it's called, Void Light.
Void Light.
There's still Tower Light, I think, because they're,
but she's kind of
sanctioned off.
The Tower Lady is.
Yeah. So, dude, I feel like the first prologue could either be Retribution himself. It could be Navani. We could find out what actually happened in that moment because they don't tell us.
No.
The sibling just says this will help us protect the tower. The next thing we know, she's frozen, bro.
Yeah.
She literally finds out her husband is dead. Doesn't even know what happened with Gav. Thinks that lump of potatoes in the bedroom is him, and then she gets frozen in time. So it's like I think that could be it. That could be what our prologues are. It could all be heralds, since we know. So you say this book is a lot about heralds, but like supposedly the next arc, from what Brandon has said, like the first arc is all about the Knights Radiant. He said the second arc is all about heralds. Like that's kind of one of the underlying themes is learning more about them. So it could just be the prologue is a herald flashback to some specific moment. I don't know.
Yeah.
Either way, we're just throwing out conjecture here. I mean, is there anything else, dude? Let's say this. So I have one prediction. Let's see if we'll just talk predictions for a second. I think, it's totally random, just any prediction. I think book 6, if not the very end, at some point in the Sanderlanche at the very end is when I don't think we'll see Kaladin again until the end of book 6. Like no POV. We'll get references to him, but I don't think we're going to see any of the heralds or Kaladin until they return at the end of book 6. And then we'll get flashbacks in books 7 through 10 of like what they did in the time jump. So that's one prediction I have. Do you have any things that you think like might occur or you'd like to see occur?
I don't know. I mean, when I first think of it, it's like, are we going to not... There's no way we keep the same main characters. I don't know why. I think some of them are going to somehow slide away, maybe, in this gap period, which I know some people won't like, but...
I feel like we'll still have Shallan and Adolin.
You think, dude? That's where I was thinking. I'm like, I guess, but I didn't even really pick up on the pregnancy thing.
Yeah, because, I mean, the whole thing with her is I feel like she's going to be in the cognitive realm the entire first book.
My only thing on why I think Shallan's getting phased out is she's now conquered herself. So what now? What is she?
Yeah, I mean, she might not be as
like
integral.
Her whole thing was being schizophrenic or not, having all these
multiple
different
personalities, yeah.
Which now she has conquered them.
Which she does say, like, it's still a thing, like, they're still there, but I've, like, fully brought them into myself. So
because book one is,
I definitely think that'll be less of a thing for Shallan in the future, especially now that she's going to have a kid. Like, I feel like she's going to kind of level up to, like, okay, I need to lock in so that my kid doesn't also end up being a psycho.
True.
Because, dude, she's going to be raising a kid in the cognitive realm in Shadesmar. That can't be good for your development, bro. That kid's going to be 9 years old showing up to Roshar, like, not knowing how to walk right or something.
I'm curious. Which,
so, I think that'll be cool. I don't think Adolин's going to meet his kid for a long time. I just feel like that's what Brandon's going to do to Adolin. He's just going to continue putting him through the grinder. But I think he's going to be important because, again, him and his unoathed are, I think, going to be important to the wider world. I feel like they're going to be one of the few groups of people that will leave the place they're in. Because you got to think, most places are now ran by Retribution. They're not going to be safe there as his enemies. So I feel like there's not going to be a lot of people that can leave Azir or Azamir or Rethiru or the Shattered Plains without being in danger of being captured by the enemy. So I think they'll be important. I do think Kaladin's like going to be less important just because he's a herald now. So we're only going to get stuff in pieces because Brandon's not going to want to reveal the whole herald world.
Gonna be.
I mean, he has Nightblood, dude. That's the only thing that really makes him relevant anymore.
Where is he Oh, he's going to find the Skybreakers.
He said he was going to find the Dissenters. But then the last part, Day 10's epigraphs, the book, every one of these books is named after a book in the real world.
Yeah.
Knights of Wind and Truth was written by Zeth's wife, who we know nothing about. So he like settles down. Yeah, dude, I swear, bro, you just don't see.
Where was that at? That was in the book.
In one of the last epigraphs, it says she says she's married to Zeth. And that's how she wrote Knights of Wind and Truth. She's getting it all from Zeth and from like things she's heard about Jasna, which another thing said about Jasna is she's the leader of the Elsecallers. That's not really a thing in these books at all. So that's something we know is going to happen is she is going to be in a Rethiru like with like training a bunch of Elsecallers. Which who knows, maybe she's going to end up being a herald one day too, but
someone has to be bad, dude. There's no one that's bad.
Who knows? One other thing that I've seen that people are shipping and think is much more realistic now is Kaladin and Syl. And dude, maybe the way he writes it, I will be a fan of it later, but as I sit now, dude, I do not want that to be Kaladin's fate. Like, I'd love Syl, bro. Especially, like, I still love her, but especially in the first couple books, bro. Syl was, like, one of my favorite things about these books. So don't get me wrong, I love Syl. And I want Syl to be happy, too. But for Kaladin's arc to be, like, I get he's an immortal herald now, so it's different. He can't necessarily marry a mortal that is going to die. But, dude, I don't know if that sits right with me. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I see them together and that not being really cringy and weird. Because even the moments in this book, dude, when they're, like, dancing in the sky together, I was like, what's going on here, dude? You're a person, Kaladin. You need to find a real woman, which, again, he's a herald now, so I guess that's not a factor, but I don't know. Does that weird you out as much as me, or are you more okay with
100%,
that? Okay,
no.
all right.
I want to.
I was worried you were about to say, dude, I ship Kaladin and Syl.
And that's honestly more my concern with Renarin and Relaine. It's like, all right, what are we doing?
Like, how does that work? Which I think he tried to touch on that.
It can't work anyway, but
I think he tried to touch on that maybe they're like going to be an asexual couple that's more about love and emotions than because there's no way Renarin doesn't get absolutely shredded to bits trying to make love to Relaine.
Oh no.
I just don't see how that happens. The dude's made out of carapace. But what do I know? I don't know anything about the Singer anatomy well enough to say, but There's gonna be some interesting things, and I
Well, because
think
they're already companions in a way, so that's all we need.
they're together basically.
So there is no need for.
Who knows? Dude?
Why does it need to get sexual? What does that
Who knows,
provide
dude?
for development?
Maybe he gets Ryan pregnant. Who knows, man?
Wait, who?
Renarin.
Oh, I was talking about no. I was completely talking about Kaladin and Syl.
Oh.
Like they're already companions. So
Yeah.
there's no need for it to be sexual.
Well, I mean, everybody needs to get theirs. Like, so I'm just saying, if that's the direction Kaladin goes, like,
True.
I mean, dude, I'm pretty sure he hadn't been with a woman in a long time in these books.
Yeah.
Like,
That's true.
so that'll be interesting. But to go back to what you said, I think you're right that a lot of there will be a POV shift to where people like Lift and Renarin are much more important in the books.
I just thought of something to reference something you asked way back before when you were asking about editing. The only time I was taken out of this story was when Pattern says something to Shallan. I can't even remember what it is. It's after something serious happened. And she says, "Okay, buddy." Like she calls him buddy.
Really? I don't remember that.
She calls him buddy, and it's like, you need to learn when to. We still got to work on your language, or I don't know. I can't remember exactly. It was towards the very end of the book.
I don't remember
And it was,
buddy, but I hate
maybe when
that.
they were coming. Oh, dude, she.
I
straight
hate when
calls
we use
him
that
buddy.
in real life.
Yeah.
Like, I hate anybody saying buddy ever. So,
And
yeah, I don't like that.
She called him buddy, and I was
That's
like,
not good.
that one didn't land, Brandon.
The disrespect to Pattern just
Well, and then-
continues.
Maya, whatever. She says like, "Let's kick some ass," as well
Does she really? I don't remember that either.
to Adolin once.
See, that stuff that's why I'm not good at analyzing that kind of stuff, because that didn't even occur like, oh, that's not really an in-world word.
Yeah.
But
Well, she had done
whatever.
a little bit of building on the back end for that one, with talking about how Maya, it's like she has certain language that it's like, oh, well, she's clearly been around like soldiers, you know,
right.
from before. I remember him saying that, so it wasn't as that one kind of slid off, but the buddy one, that's the only thing I thought.
Yeah,
of for
I'm
some
glad I
reason
missed
just now.
that. I'm glad I didn't really hone in on that, because I would not have liked that either. But yeah, again, we love this book. I had a major hangover. I'm curious to see how your next week is.
I don't know what I'm going to read tonight. It's
Yeah,
going to be nonfiction, I think.
I read an Albert Camus book, The Stranger, for the first time, and I get the merit of it, but it just, like, I do really get the merit of it, but I was not in a good place to appreciate it properly for what it is, because I'd come right out of that book. And now I'm reading that book on Sherman and Geronimo, which is really cool. So yeah, we're going to maybe post something else in 6 months, so keep an eye out, subscribe, like, comment. We're just kind of at the point where we're just putting stuff out when we can find the time to set up all this and record a video and
it's worth
all
it.
that. Yeah, when it's worth it. We were making videos just to make them for a while there, and forced ourselves to read some Dude, the beginning, that was the beginning of this year. We're almost at that point.
That is crazy.
Where we did that fantasy tournament. We did this entire fantasy tournament and then never recorded or released like the final video of like who won. Like, we did all these videos and then we kind of fell off. So, I mean, we have to be amongst the worst YouTubers in history, but we appreciate you, Tom, and the 3 others who watch our videos. Tom, if you're still here, my favorite color is green. Put that in the comments so I know you watched this whole video.
I missed you on the last one, dude.
Yeah, what's up with that? But thanks for watching or listening if you're here. And is that it for you? You good?
I think that's it. We'll end it there. Right around an hour 30.
It's the
Gotta
book
love it.
reviews. Outskis.